Hi, Kurt and Christopher. Great to see both of you again. Well, I love both of your videos. I know that makes me sound like a broken record, but it's true, so I don't feel so bad. Today I want to add another part to this impromptu empathy series we've had. It started out when I related a story that somebody told to me and I empathized with it. And then Kurt proposed a theoretical situation designed to help us exercise our empathy. And then Christopher kind of unpacked that a little bit and gave us some of the theory behind empathy, specifically regarding literature and why stories are so powerful. And today I'd like to relate a story that I experienced not as first or second person, if we're thinking in terms of writing, but as a third person. And it happened when last week I took my car in to get worked on. And while I was sitting in the waiting room of the garage, a man came in and handed back the keys from a test drive to the guy behind the counter, who asked him how it went. And so this first guy said, I liked everything about the car, but she didn't like it, and she's a woman, so that's the end of the story. And they kind of laughed, in sort of a jovial man, oh, women, ha ha ha, whatever kind of way, and walked out. And what I realized was when he said this, he was making two very big assumptions. Number one was because she's a woman, she can't explain to him why she doesn't like the car. Number two is because she's a woman and he's a man, and because she can't explain to him, then it's not worth it for him to try and understand, because it's just deterministically, it's impossible to understand her because she's a woman. And both of these are very, very powerful and very caustic assumptions, in fact, because they deny her experience. Both of them are based upon this white, patriarchal, linear concept of mind, of thought, which is that if it can't be stated in linear, verbal, and objective terms, in descriptive terms, in other words, it doesn't exist. This goes for thoughts, ideas, perceptions, any kind of communication, you name it. If it can't be delineated in that way, it's not valid, or it's not going to make sense, and it's not really worth our time to pursue, because it needs to be rewritten or represented in order for it to be valid. In other words, he denied her perceptions because they didn't fit into his schema of how perception works. So this is a problem, though, because perception is what defines our reality. It's how we interact with our world. It's how we understand our place in the world and the world itself. Perception is, it's perception. It is the most important thing that we have. It's the basis for all of our behavior, all of our decisions, all of our thoughts, all of our being. So for her to dismiss her perception was really for him to dismiss her as an equal, if not a person altogether. And the problem with this is that perception comes first. All of this logical, linear, patriarchal stuff that patriarchal, you know what I mean, all that stuff that comes from that patriarchal system is really just an after-the-fact justification. We talk a lot about gut feelings in this culture, or intuition, or women's intuition actually, because apparently men don't have that or whatever, I don't know. But all of us have experienced, and in fact, if we thought about it, we would probably agree that it happens all the time. The feelings come first, and then the words come. And the thing about the words is that the words don't really matter unless they help us refine or understand or communicate our perception. And in fact, that's what they're for. And we need that because our perceptions are only available to us. They're in our being, in our mind, maybe you might say, although in part 2 I'll talk about why I don't really like that so much. So yes, we do need those words. We do need some way of communicating them. And this linear way sort of just happens to be the dominant way. Anyway, what I'm trying to get at is that just because she couldn't explain it in his terms, he thought it wasn't valid. And if you go around deciding that if somebody can't explain things the way that you want them to be explained, it's not valid, you're going to miss out on a lot of great stuff. I'll see you next week with part 2.